Now, let's hear from someone who has always valued people, SAS's CEO, Dr. Jim Goodnight.
Hi, Dr. Goodnight, and it's so great for you to take the time to actually have this conversation. I really appreciate it. You know, any company that's been in business for 50 years is an incredible milestone, but especially for a technology company, at what point do you kind of build the language we know of as the SAS programming language today?
Well, Jim Barr actually started SAS, and I really enjoyed the work that he did on the data step.
Yeah.
Because it was much more computational than some of my data transformation routines. Most of my stuff I did interpreted stuff.
Yeah.
And his was compiled.
Okay.
So I really liked that. And so I decided to begin to merge a lot of the stuff I've been working on into SAS.
Oh, okay.
So he did the data step part, and I was in charge of writing procedures.
The language is incredibly succinct.
Yep.
Right. And as a result, it makes it very approachable for people who are maybe not as deeply entrenched in the algorithms to use it. And that's what's been its enduring value for so long in the market. So right. What drives you towards then incorporating SAS in 1976?
A fellow named Julian Horowitz in 1975 had us up into to Abbott Labs to meet with the Abbott Labs user groups. And so we went up and talked to them, showed what we were working on. And he decided that this would be a good time to begin a user group meeting that was open to everybody. So he promoted a meeting of SAS users down in Kissimmee, Florida. And we went down, and there were about 350 people there.
Wow. And
we were just amazed at how many people had showed up to go to a user meeting. And we talked about everything we were working on, and we came back from that quite pumped up with what we had.
It's amazing.
And decided that we should move out of the university and create our own private company. And that's what we did.
You know, let's talk about some really cool innovations. And I do want to dive deeper into one that I know you and I often talk about because it has this historical rhyming to it. I'll talk about it. I know you're into history as well. You've seen everything from punch cards all the way to quantum computers. But there's one area that I thought was really, really a lot of foresight for you and SAS, and I think it was in the early 80s, where as computers became more diverse in their platforms, right, and more ubiquitous in society, the challenge for SAS was how do we make sure SAS can run on all of these different computers? And so you guys pioneered something called the multi-vendor architecture, MVA for short, we call it internally. Which was a big rewrite for the software, right? So it was a big effort. Can you talk a little bit about that really important innovation? And by the way, it was 10 years earlier than this same type of innovation that happened, say, with Java, where it was about write once, run anywhere. So can you share a little bit of that?
We were mainly on mainframes, and all of our customers were on mainframes. And we had our own computer, IBM 370 model 168, that cost about $1.6 million, as I recall. And it executed 3 million instructions a second, 3 MIPS.
Wow.
So that's a
lot back then, right?
That was a lot back then. Well, you know, when I started on the 1620, I thought that was a lot. It did 300
wow.
a minute. So that's incredible.
Yeah.
So our users were, all mainframe users. But we started getting requests that we would run on mini computers.
Okay.
In 1978, Digital Equipment sold their first VAX computer to customers. And so by early 80s, we were getting more and more requests to run on these mini computers. We first converted SAS to run on the VAX, and as these other computers came out, and then of course the IBM came out with a PC, and I think it was 81, September or so of 81, and we started getting customers asking us to run on the PC, and that was incredibly difficult because it was only a 16-bit machine.
Yeah, so everything had to be, I mean, the efficiency you had to put into this, right, to deal with the limited bits is tough.
So as we're looking at all these different, well, we can't rewrite SAS every time a new computer comes on. It's way too big to do that. So we said, look, let's write a layer that sits on top of the operating system, and no one's allowed to talk to the operating system. You can only talk to the layer that sits above the operating system.
The abstraction layer above
the abstraction layer.
Yeah.
So that's what we did, and so we rewrote everything.
Connect the dots historically onto some of the stuff that I think have still real big implications today. A couple of years ago, we did a Futurum study that talked about the performance of our analytics. And we found that when we compared ourselves to some open source alternatives as well as some commercial companies in that mix, our analytics and modeling and techniques and all that were on average 30 times faster. If you look at some of the competitive comparisons to the commercial vendor, we tested against that. We were, I think, 49 times faster. So reason I say this is because the decision you made to go to C was a hugely important decision. And the work you did, the work you did on that C code is part of the reason why today we see an average of 30 times performance gains on our software doing analytical routines. Right. So I just want everyone to hear this because it's an amazing vision for you to have in 1985 to do this that still pays off dividends today in our software for our customers. It's amazing. And people are blown away. We had a consumer packaging goods company around a forecast. It took them 13 hours. We did it in, I think, 12 minutes. And it's because of the innovation that you've done back in the day, and we still continue to evolve it. So thank you for that work.
Well, we have a group of people whose sole job is to make SAS faster.
Yes.
And they try to figure out what it takes to make things faster. And I guess it's been about 20 years ago, we went over to using multiple cores.
Yes.
We had a banker in Singapore that was taking 18 hours to run their value at risk jobs. And so we brought that problem back and worked on it and spread it out over many different machines and got that down to 15 minutes.
This whole MVA strategy is now rhyming again for us in a couple ways. One is we built a multi-cloud architecture for VIA, which runs all the SAS 9 code in the cloud in a cloud-native form, but we compile it once and we map it into the cloud providers, each of the cloud providers as needed for that. And then now, when we're doing work on quantum, we're actually looking at all of the quantum simulators, and we're building a virtualization layer against the simulators to make sure that a user in SAS, writing SAS code, or even in Python eventually too, they can just use this abstraction layer to interact with CPU, GPU, or even a QPU eventually as quantum computers evolve. So again, architectural design patterns you've created back in the 80s, we see that as a reflection of what's happening right now again. So good. Very cool.
Very good.
All right, so one last thing. Recently, we saw a memo that you sent to SAS employees in 1985. And this memo had a picture of the org chart, and it put the users at the top of SAS's org chart. Additionally, it put you, the CEO, at the bottom of the org chart, and the rest of the company was in the middle. And I got to tell you, this was profound for us to see it. I mean, because what it says is you were there to support the employees and give them the environment they need to flourish. But the employees' number one priority are the users and the customers. And I just want you to know how profound that has been for us as a company. I mean, you know it, you've lived it from the success of the company, but it speaks a lot now, today, in this moment with AI as well. You know, growing up, my father worked in nuclear. He was disrupted a lot in his employment because projects were overcommitted, underdelivered a lot of times, and regardless of his quality of product, his work, there was a lot of layoffs that we experienced as a family. And it was a very, very traumatic thing that we felt throughout most of my entire childhood and my early adulthood. So when I first saw you on 60 Minutes, I saw you in an interview, and when you said that my people are my greatest assets, they leave, and my job is to make sure they come back every day. It was speaking directly to me. So it was an amazing experience for me, and I'll never forget it. And obviously, it's easy right now for me to be sitting here to think about that moment, watching you on TV at 60 Minutes, and knowing how you care about people first. You love being an employer and enabling people to be their best. Your actions as a leader are, you're a humble guy, they're profound. You have created a culture that connects companies to communities, which is very, very important. And on behalf of myself and all of us who are watching this, I just want to say thank you.
Well, you're certainly welcome.
Well, as you know, too, we also been working on a documentary that showcases the incredible arc and history of SAS. And so this will be available for everyone to watch this week at SAS Innovates. So we're all excited to watch it together and enjoy the entire story of this amazing company and your amazing leadership. So thank you.